very soon. That and we don't know. Everyone wants to come back to the normal life, and I also are of the same opinion and hope that this situation will get over very soon. And thank you very much, Dr. Roy, for inviting me and giving me the scope to talk in regarding this introduction to metasurface at high frequencies. So what I will just talk about. So initially, I will just quickly cover some salient features or salient areas in the communication or in the microwave domain or in the, I should say, the high frequency domain. Okay, and then I should say that some of the applications of metasurface, or what is metasurface and how it can be applied for some high frequency applications. Okay, to start with that, yes, I work in Varanasi, as Dr. Roy has mentioned. So, and Varanasi is situated, it is very in Uttar Pradesh district Uttar Pradesh state in India, very close to the state of Bihar border. Okay, and situated on the bank of the holy river Ganges. Okay, and yes, it is very much famous for some beautiful ghats of river Ganges. Each ghat is carrying some kind of distinct features and distinct visual aspects. Okay, it's a memorable site to work over there, and it is very much this site looks wonderful. That once you can visit the bank of Ganges during the evening time and watch the famous Ganga Aarti in the evening, and there is a famous ghat known as Dashashwamedh Ghat mentioned in our Purana also, and Puran mythology and all those ones. Okay, so and where we are, yes, we are situated we are co-located in the campus Banaras Hindu University of BHU, known as, or which can be considered as the largest residential campus of Asia. Okay, and how big it is? We are having a dedicated auto route between the two gates of BHU. And the main gate of BHU, as you can see over here, this is the main gate of BHU, and I hope that many of you can read the Devanagari script. It is written over here, Kashi Hindu Vishwavidyalaya, which stands for Banaras Hindu University. Okay, this is the main gate. We are having the auto stand. So as I have mentioned a few minutes ago, that we are having a dedicated auto route. So this is the campus, and we are having one beautiful temple within the campus. Okay, which basically kind of demarcating the IIT BHU campus from the conventional BHU campus. And in 2012, it has become IIT. The technological departments have been converted to IIT and become the Institute of National Importance. Okay, so once you are coming from you are entering from the BHU main gate, we used to take the blessings from the Lord Vishwanath in this temple, and then you are most welcome to the campus. Okay, so now to start with the technical stuffs. So what I will just quickly, I will just tell you the use of the different frequency bands. Okay, so to start with, we are having the very low frequency band lying between few hertz to 10 kilohertz, used for the audio frequency, or it is known as AF. It can be used for the telephonic application. Okay, the earlier days telephone. Then you can go with very low frequency, or VLF, which can be used for the long distance communication lying between 10 to 30 kilohertz. Okay, followed by that you are having 30 to 300 kilohertz, the low frequency application for the navigation purpose. So what do we mean by this navigation? Well, suppose if you know the 2 points or the coordinate of 2 points very, very accurately, you can compute the coordinate of the third point. Okay, that is known as the navigation purpose. Okay, the fourth one is the 300 kilohertz to 3 megahertz, which can be attributed towards the medium frequency, or MF, which can be used for the radio broadcast. If you just consider our conventional radio that lies between 550 kilohertz to 1650 kilohertz, so that is lying between this particular range. Next to it, you are having the 3 to 30 megahertz, which can be used for the high frequency communication, which can attributed towards the walkie-talkie applications. Followed by that, you can have the 30 to 300 megahertz, which is basically VHF, for very high frequency, which can be used for the TV or TV. With this TV, I am just meaning the television of our earlier days, that is our Doordarshan kind of things, the DD1 and DD2. Then you can have the FM application. If you consider the frequency band of FM, it lies between 88 to 108 megahertz. Okay, if you just go with Red FM or Radio Mirchi, you can find it in this domain only. Okay, and next to it you are having the UHF application for radar between 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. Followed by that you are having 3 to 30 gigahertz, which is super high frequency for satellite application. Then you are having 30 to 300 gigahertz for extra high frequency for defense radar application. And followed by that, you are having 30 terahertz to 3000 terahertz between the optical range. Deliberately I kept a gap over here. I will come to this one later. It is known as terahertz gap. Now here, if you just observe this, the last 4 frequency bands, among that the 4th to 2nd last, that is 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz, this particular frequency range, it is known as the microwave frequency range. And if you compute the wavelength in this range, that is between 1 meter to 1 millimeter. Okay, and the optical region, okay, if this optical region that consists of all the domains, right, the visible domain, your infrared domain, as well as your ultraviolet ray domain. Okay, so all these ones you are combining together to form the optical range. If you consider the visible alone, it lies between 400 to 700 nanometer, as you know already. Okay. So if you compare a basic communication system, you know that for basic you need a source, okay, from where the signal which has to be transmitted, that will be generated. Then you require a transmitter, okay, where the modulation occurs, okay, and by modulation you know that you require a carrier frequency which translates your baseband signal to a high frequency signal, right? And accordingly you have to use the antenna for transmitting the same. And there you need a transmission medium which can be a free space, which may be a guided medium. Accordingly it will divide. Then you may have a receiver, okay, that where again you need another antenna to decompose the signal, okay, and to demodulate it, okay, you require that one. Followed by that you need a destination, okay. So all those stuffs have been present over here in this particular system. Then whenever you are coming to the figure of merit of a communication channel or a communication system, the very first one is the signal to noise ratio in the system, which basically indicates or implies the signal ratio with respect to the noise level. The next feature is the noise figure, that is input SNR with respect to the output SNR, okay. And the third most one that is very important, that is known as channel capacity. So if you see the relation over here, which is known as Shannon law, that is C equal to B log to 1 plus SNR, where B is nothing but the bandwidth of the system. Now what happens as per the Carson's law or Carson's rule, what you require that as you increase or as you go up in the carrier frequency, okay, or the frequency of application, that is FC, what will happen, the bandwidth, it will change of the order of 10%, right? So as your FC goes up, your bandwidth also goes up by a factor of 10%, right? And as your bandwidth goes up, if your signal to noise ratio remains constant, okay, you can see from this equation, the channel capacity C, that will be basically, that also goes up. So what you can do, you can incorporate or you can accommodate more number of channels, okay, that is the most important one. So to this reach, so what I will do, I will mainly focus in the high frequency domain. That means your FC is high. Mainly I will consider the microwave, optical, and in between the two. So microwave, there are certain applications like mobile, satellite, or radio astronomy, and optical one, that is between. So if you just recall, I have mentioned just a couple of slides ago that the microwave that lies between 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz, while the optical that is from 30 terahertz to 3000 terahertz. So what you are having a gap between this particular frequency band lying between this 300 gigahertz to 30 terahertz or 0.3 to 30 terahertz, okay? This is known as the terahertz gap or terahertz window. So, or I can say over here, this is nothing but the terahertz domain. Between these two, you are having a bridge between the microwave and the optical domain. This basically lies the terahertz domain or terahertz window. Okay? So now what you can have, that if you talk about the wireless communications, okay, you know that these three persons, they are the pioneer in this particular field. Okay, all of you have heard of their expertise and their name. So Sir Heinrich Hertz, after which the frequency unit has been named. Okay, then Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose, the Indian that who had carried out or who had first shown the short distance wireless communications in late 18th century. Okay, and then you can also find that the Marconi that who had demonstrated long distance communication, okay, using the wireless media. Okay. Now what happened that Sir J.C. Bose, I can show you over here that he had carried out his work in Presidency College, Kolkata, in collaboration with the modern day Bose Institute, which is situated near to the Raja Bazar area of Kolkata. Okay, that he had first demonstrated the short distance communication, and he had carried out those experimental research between 1890s, okay, or to be very honest, 1892 to 95-96. And I'm telling you that what happened, that this research, whatever he has done, he had carried out the entire research based upon the, the Indian technology or based upon the Indian systems. So I'm telling you, everything, whatever has been done, he had developed by himself. Okay, and this particular one, if you consider that whatever the work he has done, okay, this was the original Make in India project you can think of. Okay, and here you can see the Marconi, the towers which was used by Marconi for the long distance communication between England and Newfoundland. Okay. Now, what is the legacy of J.C. Bose? You can see over here, just if you go back, this work he has demonstrated in Royal Institution, London in 1897. If you think about the history, during those days, what happened that India was not independent, if you consider. So as India was not independent, so you can think that you think about his legacy, that he has still been invited from Royal Institute London to showcase his work. So he is showing over here that whatever the work he has done, he has carried out to do this one. And he has shown this wireless communication in 60 gigahertz range, the first millimeter wave communication. Okay, if you consider the 60 gigahertz and convert it into wavelength scale, it will turn out to be 5 millimeter. Okay. Now, how was the importance of this work? You can see that in 1997, this work has been published. If you see the date, okay, 1997, that the work of Jagadish Chandra Bose, 100 years of millimeter wave research, and this research, I am telling you, this has been published in one of the very well-known, renowned conference in the microwave domain, okay, and it is known as IMS conference, held in each year in the US or in Canada, okay. So there, this work was presented. You just think of that, how novel research he had carried out in those days, okay. And but this legacy was, again, it was accepted by IEEE later. You can see over here that IEEE has honored this particular work. This is a paper cutting from 2012 newspaper that they have accepted their work, in fact the legacy of their work, and it has been transferred and reported and to the Presidency College Kolkata Authority. One plaque has been given by IEEE. You can see the plaque which has been given by IEEE. You can see over here. You can see over here fast millimeter wave communication experiments by J.C. Bose, 1894 to 1896. Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose in 1895 first demonstrated at Presidency College, Calcutta, India, the transmission and reception of electromagnetic waves at 60 gigahertz over a distance of 23 meters through two intervening walls by remotely ringing a bell and detonating gunpowder. For this communication system, Bose developed entire millimeter wave components such as a spark transmitter, coherent dielectric lens, polarizer, horn antenna, and cylindrical diffraction grating. And this plaque was handed over to the Presidency College Authority in September 2012, and it has been placed over there. Okay. So just you think of the legacy of this work and what can be its one of the potential applications. So let me come to this one, the frequency bands. Okay, although I have mentioned it is between 300 gigahertz to 300 terahertz, 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz, but you know that for the microwave frequency from if you just go for the real application, there are certain radar frequency bands which has been used for the microwave communications, and I'm telling you that if you think for the World War II during those times, that when the radar was first introduced commercially, that time this particular work has been, that the people used to code, they have to use some kind of code language so that their radar cannot be detected by the enemy, okay, like L, S, C, X, etc., right? And accordingly, the frequency bands have been named later after, okay, like 1 to 2 gigahertz for L band, 2 to 4 for S, 4 to 8 from C, then 8 to 12 for X, KU for 12 to 18, K for 18 to 26.5, and 26.5 to 40 is Ka, and later on you are having the millimeter wave domain. So what you can thought of that, or you can think of the radio astronomical application, which is one of the interesting applications, which is nothing but the, that you can observe the signal in the optical, in the radio wavelength or in the microwave wavelength. So what happens, the atmosphere is, that you are having a transparent, or it is basically, you are having one small window in the optical domain and in the IR domain. However, you are having you can have a very large window or wide window in the radio domain. So what you can do, you can study the universe at radio wavelengths, which is known as the radio astronomy, okay? And it was first started in 1930s as an offshoot of the developments in the radio communications technology. So what happened, I am showing over here that the picture of one person who is known as Karl Jansky. So he was a radio engineer in Bell Lab in US. So he was basically going to, do some kind of measurements in the field. And what he has found out, if you can see over here, that after a certain interval of time, he's getting some kind of peaks, right? And this peak he was not prepared for that one. So what is happening? So this peak was received from a distant neutron star. So suppose you are having a star which is rotating around its axis, and it is coming over here. It is basically emitting some kind of radiation which is received by the receiver. Again it is rotating, again it is coming back to over here, and again it is irradiating this one, and some kind of receiver has been received this one. So he's getting that one after a certain interval of time, and from this one the radio astronomical things have been emerged out. And radio astronomical things have been started in India also, that when the single telescope was being used, okay, that you can see over here that a distant object has been imaged, okay, in the radio wavelength, okay. So this was the imaging which has been carried out, okay. Later the resolution has been improved. How I am coming to this one just within a few minutes, okay. So this person who had carried out this exhaustive research in late 1960s, his name is Professor Mrinalkanti Dasgupta, and he had carried out all this research, okay, just sitting in the Department of Radio Physics and Electronics in University of Calcutta, okay. And I'm showing you some of the telescopes, the Subaru telescope, which has been used for the UV astronomy in 1978, in Hubble telescope, which has been placed in space, okay, for the IR astronomy or infrared astronomy in 1990, okay. And what you are having, a radio telescope, it is nothing but it is analogous to or it is similar to a super heterodyne receiver. So whatever signal that has been received, okay, and it will be received by the antenna, okay, and then it has been subsequently processed, okay. So what you are having, I'm just showing you one of the block diagram. So as I have told you, the signal, it has been splitted into orthogonal polarizations, okay, and so that they don't interfere with each other. And they have been passed through a low noise amplifier, okay, so that the noise can be very minimized, it can be added to the system. And you are having a mixer, so this portion, you can see over here, this is analogous to a super heterodyne receiver system. So the local oscillator of this signal, that is higher compared to the frequency of the reception, okay. And what you can have, the IF frequency, that is basically separated out, right? So this is the that this is nothing but the block diagram of a radio astronomical system. And this is a single dish radio telescope. This is the largest one in Puerto Rico, Arecibo, okay. And later on, another one in India, that in Ooty radio telescope was been established in 1970s, okay. So it was working till date, it is working fine, okay. It is, all the antennas are, they have been placed over a single axis, and they can wind up over here, and it has been placed in the Ooty Valley, okay. And now I'm coming that on this one, that how we can improve this sensitivity, right? Suppose you are having a distant star. So the signal is coming from there, and once the signal is coming from there, right? So what you need, you should be able to do one thing, that you should have very high resolution. And you know the resolution is basically lambda by d, right? Now if your lambda, that is operating wavelength, remains constant, you can say that you are having more resolving power, or resolution is enhanced when lambda by d is minimum, right? Or it can be further minimized, right? So what you can do, how you can minimize that, since lambda is constant, you have to increase d. D means what? That is nothing but the aperture or the physical dimension of the antenna or the radio telescope. So how you can do that? Look, if I ask you to build a 500-meter dish or a 1-kilometer dish, can you make it? It is not that much feasible. So what is the option? You have to go for an array, right? And what is the array? So what you can do, you can place the similar type or identical type of antennas over the same line, okay? So that is one of the options. And how you can do that? So, well, suppose you have placed the antenna like this way. Now, you know the earth is rotating, right? So, since earth is rotating, suppose the source is there towards here. Now, whenever the earth is rotating and here the antennas have been, the arrays have been placed like this way, so you can find or you can observe the baseline like this. And earth is rotating and again it is coming like this, okay? Now, here the projected baseline is getting changed, right? So, what you require in this case, you require that separate baselines. So, what you do, the array should have that, or you will have identical projections once it is getting rotated, right? So, what is the way out in this case? The way out is you have to go for, in this case, that instead of this one, you have to go for some kind of Y-shaped geometry. Why it is Y-shaped? Just you think of that, why your fan or ceiling fan is having 3 blades, right? So that you can have uniform circulation of air. So similarly, like this is the same concept, that with the Y shape, that if each arm that has been placed within 120-degree angular separation, it can cover the complete range, right? So this is the earth rotation. Okay. So these are some of the array radio telescopes, okay, in worldwide, like E. Merlin in UK, then Atacama in Chile, Astron in Netherlands, VLA, the very large array in New Mexico, and then you are having LOFAR or low frequency array covering UK, France, Germany, and Netherlands. Okay, and I'm telling you that the imaging of the source, which was carried out by, or which was obtained by Professor Dasgupta, that has been improved later by using the very large array. Okay, so just you think of that, how accurate was his measurement, that it has been still considered as one of the best measurements. Okay, so this is the Indian challenge, that the GMRT or Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope situated at 90 kilometers away from Pune. Okay, so I'm just showing this some of the figures, and this is the the aerial view of GMRT, and the person who has established this particular facility, he is known as the father of radio astronomy in India, known as Professor Govind Swarup. Okay, and how was, what is his legacy? That his legacy is, in 2019, okay, that one paper in radio astronomy, that it has been, the title is a tribute to Professor Govind Swarup, the father of Indian radio astronomy. And you can see over here in the abstract, in this paper, we pay a tribute to the father of Indian radio astronomy, Professor Govind Swarup, by celebrating his 90th birthday, okay, in 2019, and recounting his remarkable scientific achievements in 3 disparate regions of the globe, okay, Indian subcontinent, Australia, and the USA. Okay, and how he had joined over there. He was invited to work in TIFR by none other than Dr. Homi Jahangir Bhabha, the then scientific advisor of the Prime Minister of India. Okay. And I know many of the untold stories of him. How you can see this one? Yeah, those who don't know me, okay, this is me standing with Professor Swarup in 2011 in IIT Kanpur during my PhD days. Then later I visited Pune NCRF facility in 2013. There I met him, and this is again in Pune at his home in 2016. This was in last year in Delhi on the eve of his birthday, okay, in 2019. So what you can see over here, the universe at different wavelengths, okay, that as I have told you, that you can see that why you need different wavelengths observations, so that you can find out the distinct feature of an universe. Suppose from a distant source, okay, that if I can say like this way, well, an element X that will give an absorption or emission spectra at wavelength lambda X. Similarly, element Y is given at lambda Y, and element Z at lambda Z, where lambda X, lambda Y, lambda Z are different, right? Now suppose what you are getting from an unknown source, okay, you are getting these emission lines at lambda X and lambda Z. So you can think of the particular distant star or distant object is consisting of the element X and the compound Z, okay? What you can consider in an easier way, that the same way it was detected by Meghnad Saha by one of his experiments, that the outer core of the sun that consists of hydrogen and helium, okay? And here you can see the imaging of our own Milky Way at different wavelengths. So what you can see, can you see any kind of correlation between them? No. You can see at different wavelengths you are having different types of imaging. Okay, this is our own Milky Way. Okay. Now these are some of the backgrounds. Okay, now what I want to know, that I want to now introduce the metasurface, that what can be used for this kind of applications. So before this, I also want to know very simply that what is the optical domain. You know that similarly you are having the laser signal, okay, from which the pulse has been emitted through an optical fiber. It is getting transmitted, and through repeater it is getting processed, and again it is receiving at the receiver end and detected by a photodetector. And you know that in optical domain there are two distinct frequencies at 1.3 micron and 1.55 micron. At 1.3 micron, you are having the lowest or the minimum kind of dispersion, and you can have the lowest attenuation at 1.55 micron of 0.2 dB per kilometer. You know that one. Yeah. Well, so to come about the metamaterial or metasurface, so what you have, you know that any kind of conventional material that consists of the identical atoms, you already have studied in your school day physics, right? Now what you can have, what do we mean by metamaterial? So metamaterial means you are having a periodic arrangement of the unit cells in a three-dimensional plane. Okay. So what you can have, that instead of the atom-driven conventional material, you can consider you are having a certain unit cells that is getting repeated in this plane, okay, as well as in this one. Okay. So what you are having a three-dimensional arrangement of this kind of the structure of the unit cell, that basically consists the metamaterials. Okay, so there is another important aspect. The dimension of this particular one captures very small. Very small means what? That will be lambda by 4. So what will happen in that case? If the wave is, suppose the wave is incident on this one, you are having this particular surface. So what you can have, instead of selecting a particular unit cell, it will give you a combined effect. And what you can do, you can ignore the effect of diffraction or scattering from the individual atom of the or individual unit cell of the metamaterial structure, right? So what you can have the domination of the phenomena like reflection and transmission through the unit cell or through the plane. Okay. Now what you can have, you can consider a surface, okay, instead of three-dimensional, you make it change to a two-dimensional one, okay. And two-dimensional, what you can have, you are having a metallic structures or metallic patterns which can be, it may be of different shapes and arranged in a two-dimensional plane in a periodic one. And what you can have when the periodicity is again less than lambda by 4, okay, it is known as the metasurface. So what I am doing, the metamaterial basically in the two dimension, if you just convert it, you can consider it as a metasurface, right? Now I am just telling you that we can have several applications, like as I have told you, the reflection and transmission that should dominate over diffraction and scattering. So if I'm just considering one of the examples that I want to make, or I want to design a metasurface so that it can absorb the wavelength. So now you think like a very basic one. Suppose if you are having, you know that whenever you are having an interface, a wave is incident from this medium 1 to medium 2, okay? What will happen? A part of the wave is reflected back and the rest of the part is transmitted, right? Where the medium is not lossy in nature, right? Now what you can do, Suppose you are making some kind of arrangement so that the transmission is getting reduced or transmission is making made zero, right? So under that condition, what you can do, that you are having only reflection possible, right? Now, if the reflection, so what will happen? You know that in the language of electromagnetics or in the language of scattering parameters in the microwave domain, you already have studied that mod of S11 square plus mod of S21 square equal to unity for a lossless medium, right? But however, if you are having the lossy in nature, you can't satisfy this nature, right? So S21 square, that basically means the transmittance or the transmittivity that is getting, that is getting minimized, okay, once you are having zero transmission, okay? So what you can do, if you consider also the reflection, the S11, if you can minimize that one also simultaneously, what you can do under that condition, you can achieve a lossy medium or you can achieve an absorptive medium, right? So what you can do, the input impedance you can compute for the medium, that if you are having S21 equal to 0 for the zero transmission, you can write like this way, eta naught into 1 plus S11 by 1 minus S11, right? And what you can do, that the absorption coefficient or the absorptivity, you can write like this way, 1 minus S11 square minus S21 square. Now, if you consider that you are making or you are employing some kind of metal backing, what you can do, you can reduce the transmission or you can make zero transmission, right? So S21 becomes 0. So as S21 is made 0, so what you can do, that you can make the absorptivity that will be equal to 1 minus reflected power, right? And if you can reduce the reflected power at a particular frequency, you can get the highest amount of absorption, okay? So to this one, I'm just coming to this structure, which is you are having a single band metasurface structure. So this is one, the unit cell of the structure. So what you can have, you are having this kind of metallic unit cells, the metallic pattern which has been printed on the top side, okay? The yellow one is the dielectric. Here we have chosen the FR4 dielectric, okay? On the back side of it, you are having the complete metal backing, okay? And wave is incident normal to your screen, right? So as you can see over here, the electric field is along this direction, magnetic field is along this direction, and this is the incident normal to your screen. And what you can get, you can achieve the absorption at a frequency close to 7.46 gigahertz, okay? So what you can do, that you can scale up now. That scale up means what? That your periodicity remains constant, while the other dimensions, okay, the gaps, the other metallic lengths, metallic widths, that you can scale up by certain factors, okay? And what you can do here, the subcells 1 are, you can see the subcells 1 over here, they are identical, and subcells 2, they are also identical. So you are basically constructing a supercell consisting of subcells 1 and subcells 2, which are identical in nature. So the subcells 1 have been scaled up by a factor of 1.2, which is different from the scaling factor of subcells 2, which is 1.3. And you can find out that it is basically absorbing or resonating at 2 distinct wavelengths or 2 distinct frequencies. Okay, you can see from here. What you can see further, well, that here, if you want to experimentally realize it, so what you make, you have made a board, okay? And this board should be as much high as possible, okay? Because you can think like this way, you are having one horn antenna, okay? And horn antenna, if you consider the mouth or the aperture of the antenna, that is on the order of lambda cross lambda. And it is the directivity of the horn antenna is very high. So this wave is coming and then it is impinged on the surface, right? Now, as you are making a large surface, okay? So what you can do, you can minimize the probability of the side diffraction as well as the side scattering. So the fundamental thing is, that bottom line is, you have to make this dimension as large as possible so that things can be significantly reduced, right? So the fabricated structure, it is something around 240 mm cross 240 mm it was taken. So if you just go back to this one, what you can see, the periodicity is something around 5 millimeter, right? So you are having 48 unit cells in the X direction and 48 unit cells in the Y direction, okay? And here you are having 2 antennas which are identical in nature, okay? It has been placed in the anechoic chamber, okay? One of the antenna is transmitting in nature while the other one is acting as the receiving antenna, okay? what is happening that from one of the antennas the wave is getting emitted. Okay, you think like this way. It is getting it is incident on the structure and it is reflected back. Okay, and then it is received by this particular the other receiving antenna. Okay, what you can do that how to do this particular measurement. The fundamental thing is here you can see that initially you have to keep a copper surface or a metallic surface, of identical dimensions, okay? Because what you know that if you are having a metal, then when the wave is incident on it, all the wave will be reflected back. There is no transmission, right? So what you do that by keeping a metal, you can get a reference level, and then by keeping the surface, you can get the reflected amount. So if you measure the two, the difference between the two will give you the actual reflection from the surface, okay? And once you convert it, you can get the absorptivity from the particular surface, and which has been mentioned over here, okay? Now, well, we had meant, or you can make some kind of, some supercell to constitute this kind of dual band absorption. You can also make dual band absorption by combining two different unit cells in a single cell, right? Which can be shown over here, that a single unit cell has been constructed, and it basically exhibits a dual band frequency at dual band absorption at C and X bands, okay? Now what you can do, you can see over here one of the interesting thing. Well, I am just showing over you. Notice this figure very accurately. Electric field is oriented along this direction, right? Now phi, which basically indicates the the polarization of the electric field. So phi 0 degree, that means that whenever the polarity is aligned along this direction, okay? So there you are having the dual band absorption. While you are having phi 90 means what? Suppose you are having like this way, you can think like this way, yeah. Electric field along this direction, magnetic field along this direction, and this is the direction of wave propagation. Electric field of 90 degree means, or phi 90 degree means, this is getting rotated like this way, okay? So still you are having the normal incidence, right? But your, the electric field along this direction, while the magnetic field is along this direction, okay, like this way, okay? So what you can have, under that condition, you are getting a third peak at some other frequency, which is basically 7.4 gigahertz. So if you observe it very carefully, what is happening, if you observe the electric field pattern, so all the gaps are getting activated at 5.46 gigahertz. If you go to 9.54 gigahertz or the second frequency band over here, this particular one, this basically gives you this basically plays the role for having the absorption, okay? If you go to the third one at 7.4, so what you can see, the adjacent metallic ones, okay, here, the electric field or adjacent metallic ones here, okay, because this unit cell has been surrounded by the identical unit cells. So this one is playing the important role so that this particular capacitance will play, to play the resonance, okay? So here what is happening in this case, okay, all these capacitance have been excited. Here only the middle one has been excited by a larger amount. Here this capacitance has been excited. So what you can do, you can make it like this way, okay? What you have over here, the subcells 1 and subcells 2 are identical in nature, while they are oriented by an amount of 90 degree, okay? And what you can achieve a triple band absorption like this way, okay? So you can convert a dual band absorber to a triple band absorber very easily like this way. And what you can notice over here, that here, let me just, I'm just telling you over here, that this one, you can have a four-fold symmetry, right? What is the four-fold symmetry? If you rotate it by 90 degree, you will get the same kind of structure, right? So once you are having the four-fold symmetry, what does it mean? This means you are having you can incorporating the polarization independent structure. Okay, the structure is polarization independent in nature. Okay, so that is the important one you can see over here. Okay. I'm coming to another aspect that, as I have mentioned in one of the slides, that there lies a frequency band known as the terahertz domain lying between the microwave and the optical one. So what you are having over here, that this domain, it is known as terahertz window, 0.3 to 30 terahertz. Okay, so what you can have in this one, you can incorporate some of the advantages from microwave domain. You can also incorporate some of the advantage from the optical domain, and simultaneously you can work take both the things together and customize it accordingly so that it can be used over here. What you can do, you can use the enormous bandwidth over here. Okay, so what you can have over here, that well, this you can do, but and also what you can have, the associated energy is very small, right? Because you know that this one is energy equal to h nu, right? And what you can have, this nu is much lesser compared to the visible or compared to X-ray and gamma rays, right? So what you can have at the same time, you can have the most exciting as well as the frustrating one, because that it is mostly unexplored due to the non-availability of the source and detector. Explicit the source and detector are not present. However, you can have the presence of the, you have to customize your source or the detector. Okay. As you can have this kind of ones, you know, the associated energy is less, so you can use it in kind of defense applications. So here you can see that one person is here, that within this particular bag, one gun has been, you know, it has been hidden over here, which can be easily detected by detected over here. While this particular person is carrying some kind of knife beneath the newspaper, which can also be detected by using this terahertz window. Okay, and what you can do, that this can be used much better way or much efficient way in a screening system, because the energy is low. So what you don't have any kind of ionizing capability, like in X-rays, whenever it will be passed over here, right? So what will happen, that while passing over your skin, okay, it will ionize it one. Okay, so there is some kind of chance that your skin may get damaged, but there is no that kind of situation is, you know, that is possible in case of or it is feasible in case of this particular gun, or in case of this particular terahertz window. Okay, so this terahertz domains, okay, so you can also frame or you can also design some kind of absorber, but what you have to make very, very sure over here, that once you are model the metal at high frequency, as well as once you are taking the dielectric, okay, that you have to be very, very careful. You can't model metal directly. You have to take the help of Drude model for modeling the metal over here. And also in the dielectric, you have to consider the particular substrate, okay, while taking it. And again, it can be used for a broadband absorber also. So these are some of the works which has been reported. I'm just showing you over here. And the structure can also be used for a polarization converter. So you can see over here that you are having some structure. Okay, so on the both side of it, it is printed some kind of metallic, some kind of metallic patterns. So the structure, it has been propagated. So what is happening? Suppose this is the direction of propagation and this is the direction of electric field. So after propagating through this surface, it is still propagating over here, but the direction of electric field, that is getting rotated by an amount of 90 degrees, and again it is moving forward. Okay, so you are having the conversion of polarization. Okay, so this kind of structure, okay, this can be used for the reflective type also, right? So this is one of the structures. So what you can have, that again you are having the unit cell over here, that this metallic patterns have been printed on the dielectric one. Okay, and what you can do, that once the structure has been excited, you can see over here the copolarized reflection level. Okay, so copolarized reflection level means what? Suppose I am having one antenna which has been located like this way, the other antenna that should also be like this way, right? So under this condition, you won't get any kind of signal. Otherwise, or on the contrary, if you just rotate the receiving one by 90 degrees, what you will get, you will receive some subsequent amount of signal. Okay, so this is known as the cross polarized signal. Okay, so what you can do, if you compute the polarization conversion, okay, you can compute accordingly that what is the polarization conversion value, and you can find it is quite high. Okay, so over a broad bandwidth you can achieve this kind of phenomenon. Okay, so as I have told you, that here you can see the sample, and this one is for the co-polarized reflection measurement, while in this case you can have the cross-polarized reflection measurement, when one of the antennas is rotated by 90 degree with respect to the original one. Okay, and accordingly you can compute the transmitted and the the copolarized and cross-polarized reflection level. You can also have this one. You can design for a multi-band applications. Okay, this one of the work which has been carried out by one of my students over here. And here you can see that at multiple frequencies you are having the copolarized minima and cross-polarized maxima. You can have it over here. And what you can have specifically at two distinct frequencies, you can see the angle between the cross-polarization and copolarization one. They are getting plus minus 90 degree while making the amplitude of the copolarized and cross-polarized level equal. Okay, so what you can have these two conditions simultaneously that provide you the conditions for the circular polarization. And what you can see over here that at those two frequencies in one case one can have the RHCP or the right-handed circular polarization. In the other one you are getting the LHCP or left-handed circular polarization. Okay. And you can also see that this kind of structure can provide you, that the transmittive type of polarizer. So you are having that this kind of unit cells on the top surface, the metallic patterns which has been printed like this way in the horizontal way, and metallic pattern on the back side, it is on the vertical way. So here the electric field is along the vertical direction, and on the middle of this one you are employing some kind of transmittive or some kind of fractal structure. So what you can have that as you increase this particular order, so by making some suitable geometry, what you can do that you can enhance this particular rate. You can enhance the fractal bandwidth, or you can enhance the bandwidth of the polarization conversion. Okay, you can do it. Okay. And what I have told you, you can see it over here visually. You see that initially electric field was oriented along this direction. Okay. And whilst it is coming up, it is coming out along this direction. Okay, you can simply see that there is an inversion of the 90 degree of the wave. Okay, you can see this particular one which I have told you just now. Okay, and what you can see the phase is, you can see that over a broad range of frequency this phase is constant at 90 degree, the phase difference, which is very much obvious. And you can see that over here the transmission coefficient, if you just make it with respect to the change of transmission coefficient with respect to frequency, that is DTDF with respect to frequency, that will be 0. So what you can make that you can call that our particular structure that is non-dispersive in nature. Okay, so there is no dispersion. Okay, so all of them are traveling with identical phase or group velocity. Okay, so that you can determine from this particular structure. Also, this since this particular workshop is oriented towards antenna, so also I have kept this particular slides, okay, to show that this metasurface can be used for some kind of antenna applications also. So what you can have, you are having the top surface is this kind of some kind of slotted patch over here, while the bottom surface, instead of having the complete ground, you are having the partial ground. And the rest of the where you are not having the defected ground structure, it has been loaded by this kind of resonating structures of the unit cells, okay, which can be kept over here, okay. And here you can see that how these ones have been kept, and here that if you simply model it, you will get that how the S11 and S21 of a single unit cell that will vary. So here 5 × 4 order of unit cells have been considered so that you can achieve a dual bandwidth application. Okay, so what you can see that here is the implemented structure. So what you can get that over here, if you see the two bandwidths, okay, that is between over here, that is you are having between 1.8 to 5.7 gigahertz in the low frequency, and the other one you are getting 10.38 to 10.92 in the X band. So what you can get, you can achieve in both the frequencies a high bandwidth application. Okay, so this has been measured in the anechoic chamber facilities over here, okay, by a handheld vector network analyzer. And you can also measure the particular, the radiation pattern, which is quite similar, as the simulated and experimental ones are quite similar to each other. And you can also measure, or you can also look after what is the particular, you can find out that what is the particular, the directivity. You can find out the directivity, you can get as the directivity as high as 7.7 dBi, okay. so that it has been achieved. Okay, so this is a dual band antenna, and also you can think of that this kind of antenna can also be used as a superstrate configuration. So again, you are having some kind of patch antenna, while on the bottom side you are having a defected ground. Okay, so you are having some kind of dipole slots like this way. Okay, and on the top one you are having this is the top surface of this patch antenna and loaded by some kind of periodic patches. Okay, and you can see that on this one, on the top one, again you are incorporating some kind of array-like structures in the as a superstrate. This is the three-dimensional perspective view. Okay, and what you are having here, this has been the top and bottom surface. This has been separated by Teflon. You can see the fabricated geometry here. This is this A and this B are same. Okay, and this C and this B are same. Okay. And this one is the superstrate configuration of this particular metal patches, which has been printed over the dielectric. And this is the Teflon structure, okay, which has been used and measured in a vector network analyzer. And again, you can see that here it is providing over a large bandwidth in the X band. One can achieve that the gain has been enhanced subsequently. Okay, so what we can show over here that this is the structure which has been used. And this, if you use a Teflon structure and if you use an air spacer, so what you can see the difference between the two by using the conventional this Teflon structure. What you can do, you can incorporate or you can achieve, okay, or you can realize an enhanced bandwidth in the X band over here. Okay, and again the unit cell has been studied in by using the periodic condition, that what will be its response. Okay, it can be studied accordingly. Okay, and here the simulated results you can see from here that the gain you can achieve as high as 8.1 dBi and or 7 dBi, or in this complete frequency band you are achieving between 7 to 8 dBi. Okay, over this range of 10.14 to 10.94 gigahertz. Okay. And you can see over here that how at all these frequencies the different unit cells as well as the patches, they are getting excited so that the high gain can be achieved. So basically you can think of a kind of lens application that where the waves can be callimated, okay, along a particular direction. Okay. And this was the structure. It has been, whatever has been fabricated, it has been experimentally measured. Okay, and you can see over here the simulated and experimental response, they are quite same. Okay, that they are nearly same, and you can see over here the directivity, it has also been compared, and they are in order. Okay, and here you can also see that the co-polarized and cross-polarized patterns, they also make some kind of, that you can find out that the cross-polarized level is quite low compared to the co-polarized one, right? So all these are the works for the particular one. You can also design some kind of terahertz structures in the terahertz window, some kind of, some kind of meander line based SRR loaded structures in terahertz window. Okay, so subsequently you can improve the structure. Okay, and you can get over a multiband, that in the terahertz domain some multiband structures operating at 4 to 5 or 6 distinct frequencies. Okay, and you can see over here at all those ones the co-polarized level is much higher compared to the cross-polarized one, and the efficiency is around 50%. Well, now I am telling you one thing, that in terahertz domain the efficiency of the antenna which has been reported, that is quite less. So that is one of the challenge over here, and people are going for the for enhancing this particular one. And this work has been carried out by 2 students who had joined me just 2 years ago, that for only 1.5 months program during their summer internship, and they had come up with this particular structure. And some other student who had joined last year, again a summer internship for 1.5 months, they have come up with some kind of high gain antenna. Okay, you can see over here again where the gain is at one frequency, it has been realized close to 14.8 dBi. Okay, with AMC structure. Okay, and the radiation patterns are also quite impressive. Okay, and also some kind of wearable antenna that has been designed. Okay, and this structure was also carried out by one of the students in last year. Okay, So then you can see that with FSS how by incorporating the FSS how the structure can be improved, and one can be use some kind of styrofoam kind of structure, styrofoam kind of substrate, so that it can be integrated with the particular that cloth or something that which you want to wear. Okay. And again, you can see over here the co-polarized and cross-polarized pattern. What you require, you don't require sufficient back radiation so that it will affect your, affect your body. So you can see over here, the back radiation can be subsequently reduced. Okay, over here. So these are the two structures which can be defined over here at 6 and 8 gigahertz. And before finishing off, I want to thank the summer interns who had worked with me. So these are the summer interns worked with me in 18, and they have the summer interns worked with me in 19. Unfortunately, no interns. Already 2 of them were supposed to join, but due to the pandemic situation, they couldn't join the institute. Okay, so these are some of the things, and I want to acknowledge my students that with whom I am working over here and who are doing really very well, so that I can present this work in front of you. Some of the master students graduated with me, okay, and some of the PhD students who are still working, okay, and these are the 2 master students joined with our group, okay, and I am very much, I'm very much thankful to my institute for providing me some kind of initial funding, as well as the Science and Research Board, Government of India, for providing me the sufficient funding so that we are doing this kind of research. And this is our campus in IIT JHU Varanasi. As I have mentioned, we are having a beautiful temple. So this is the aerial view of the temple, okay, and once the things will get improved, I'll be very happy to host you. If you want to visit me or visit my lab, drop me one email. If I am not traveling, I will definitely reply you within 24 hours, okay. And thank you very much for your kind attention. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. How might? Actually, look, microwave absorbers, what means? Well, first of all, any kind of absorbers, not only in microwave domain, in other domains also, what you require that when the wave is incident, okay, at the interface, both the reflection and the transmission coefficient, that should be subsequently minimized. So now this absorber, you can design in a number of ways. For example, if you consider an anechoic chamber, you can see that some kind of foam absorbers, okay. So they absorb in a way that where you can have a perfect matching, that the wave cannot transmit over a certain distance, okay, because the attenuation coefficient is very, very high, right? You can also make some kind of, that you can also have some kind of other structures like Salisbury screen or Jaumann layer, that where you can absorb it over a single frequency or a multiple frequencies, right? If you think of in a metamaterial kind of thing or in a metasurface kind of things, what you have to do, you have to make a periodic structure. This is obvious, right? You are having a complete ground plane on the other side. What you have to do now, you have to design the geometry on the top surface, okay, in such a way which is printed over the dielectric, so that whenever the wave is incident on it, okay, then the wave should be, the reflection from the structure is minimized. That you can do, like the best approach is that you have, whenever you are designing it, basically what you are doing, you are to making some kind of change. If you can think of, you are incorporating some kind of effective medium approach where the effective permittivity and effective permeability can be minimized. How? I am just telling you like this way. I can just show you, just give me 1 minute. Yeah, I think, can you see my slide, this one? Yeah. So as I have told you, the reflection is minimized. So you can think of that as if you are having S11 equal to 0. So what do you have? You means that Z omega will be equal to eta naught, right? So what is Z omega? Z omega is nothing but the overall impedance or the input impedance of the wave. So that you can write Z omega equal to eta naught into root over epsilon effective into, root over mu effective by epsilon effective, right? So what you are having on the left hand side, eta naught into root mu effective by epsilon effective equal to, on the right hand side you are having eta naught. So eta naught will cancel out. So essentially what you are having, the effective permittivity by effective permeability, that is equal to 1. So essentially you have to match this one. So what you want, so you should want in a such a way so that since permittivity is a resultant of the, that some kind of electric response, and permeability, that is the effect of the magnetic response. So you need both the electric and the magnetic response that should occur simultaneously so that the absorption can be strong. I think I have I have given the answer. Is it okay? Yeah. No, not till date. In fact, I am telling you, in IIT Delhi, facility is there to measure till 1 terahertz. Okay, but if you consider strictly in the terahertz domain, not only in India, overall in the worldwide, we are lacking the terahertz measurement facility. Okay, because we have to customize between the microwave and the optical domain. That is the main challenging one. Yeah. In IIT BHU, till date you can measure till 20 gigahertz, but recently we have procured one VNA which can measure till 44 gigahertz. But we have to, but we don't have the devices that which can measure till 44 gigahertz, because since you are already entering in the millimeter wave bands, so accordingly, you have to change into the waveguide form and those kind of things. But we are slowly procuring it. I think that if the things improve, we can do much. We can go for much better ones. Well, dimensions of the metasurface, well, what you have to do, the periodicity, that should be less than lambda by 4, as I have told you already. So what you have to do, that the basic idea is you have to illuminate as many number of unit cells as possible. Okay, so that is the main important one. And what you can do, that you can compute from an easier approach. So you can't take a unit cell as an individual. You have to consider the mutual effect, right? So the best thing is, in this case, you have to go for some kind of heat and trial method. There is no other way. Yeah. Well, FSS means you are having a frequency. Okay, let me go to that slide and explain. FSS means you are having a frequency selective surface. So what you are having a surface, okay, it is like this way, okay. It has been arranged in a two-dimensional manner, right? But you don't have any kind of restriction. You don't have it. Maybe the periodicity may be less than lambda by 4, or it may be of the order of lambda. It may be of the order of 2 lambda. Nothing will happen. Okay, nothing matters. But in case of metasurface, strictly, you need two things. You need the periodicity should be less than lambda by 4, as well as what you are having, you should need an electronically or electrically thin substrate. Electrically thin substrate means what I mean, it may be 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter, but on the other hand, it may be electrically thin in the sense that you are having the thickness of the order of lambda by 20 or lambda by 30 or lambda by 40. If you are having the substrate less than lambda by 10 and the operating frequency, you can consider the third dimension is reduced. Yeah. Yeah. Terahertz range you are considering for the terahertz antenna. Terahertz antenna, in fact, if you want, I just tell you that even this one is that whatever is our reported work, you can, I am just sharing it once again. You can go through this particular paper once again. There is no harm. In fact, we have tried to explain from the very first thing. Okay. So if the speaker wants, he can take the photograph of this particular slide and he can use it. Yeah. Well, EBG is nothing but the electronic band gap structure. Okay, so this is another form of, again you are having another form of device. So it is nothing but you are having the identical kind of things. Yeah. 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 Thank you very much. Yeah. 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 Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. So now we'll start our next session. That is based on wearable antenna design and challenges. So earlier sessions are discussed about meta surface. Now we'll start about designing techniques as well as some challenges we face till now. What are the things we'll have left you can do, how we can design the antenna in means using wearable technology and others. So my name is Dr. Saurav Rai, as well as I'm the organizing coordinator as well as convener of the workshop. So earlier lecture we discussed about metamaterial design and techniques. Now we'll discuss about the wearable antenna fabrication and challenges. As well as I told you people how to design the wearable antenna, how can you choose the substrate and others. We have done some measurement also regarding substrate. So I'll discuss all the things one by one. So first, introduction of wearable technology. So nowadays, wearable technology is applied in any so many devices, military services, fire department, medical application, etc. The antenna requirement in wearable technology is quite different to the conventional counterpart, because whenever we'll see the wearable, the body is coming, and body parameters, all the things are different from different people. The body shapes are different, the body things are different, all the things are different, and it is very person to person. And another things, wearable or body is a dielectric lossy substrate. So whenever we'll consider body as a dielectric material, then substrate, its permittivity, conductivity, losses, all the things are varied. And another thing is, all the things are very different, depends on the frequency. If frequency will changes, the property of the substrate or properties of the body tissue will be varied. So that is the things, those are the design challenges. And another things, whenever body is in motion, so many things will come. So those are the design challenges in the wearable technology. Now, first we will choose the wearable substrate. So whenever we'll choose any substrate, we should know its properties. Otherwise, we are not able to design the things. So basically, we choose 2-3 different substrate like jeans, then cotton and other things. And for validation purpose, we fabricate all those things in our lab. So that is our lab measurement setup device. It is consists of one vector network analyzer and dielectric assessment kit with computer. And we find its different values like dielectric constant, dielectric loss factor, conductivity, loss tangent. So those are the we measured in our lab using this measurement setup. We calculate its dielectric constant, loss factor, conductivity, loss tangents over the frequency 1 to 7 gigahertz frequency range. Because our main aim to design the wearable antenna in particular 2.4 gigahertz frequency band, because that is used for ISM, industrial, scientific and medical application bands. So now coming to the antenna counterpart. So first we design an antenna, it covering the dual band frequency. So thin substrate with permittivity 1.6 and height is 1 mm. So in some thin substrate in market, those are varied, permittivity is varied from 1.5, 1.6 to 1.8 up to. So in this range. So we consider, we already measured this is 1.6 to 1.7 we found. So we consider 1.6. Antenna works in dual band, its geometry is given. So whenever you people will choose this type of antenna design, so you kept in your mind this path or whatever the strip length must be greater than 1 mm. Otherwise it is not possible to design it manually or practically, because there is no machine is available to design these things, fabricate these things. So we are done those things manually. So manually, whenever you will consider, it should be dimension should be 1 mm or 1.5 mm or 1.2 mm, not more than less than 1 mm. Otherwise, you will face difficulty. Now we consider the S11 parameter. We find out its different valuation. We consider antenna 1, antenna 2, and antenna 3 with parametric ground variation. So we find that at antenna H equal to 2 mm, antenna covers the lower band as well as higher band at P equal to 25. So we also done the gain versus frequency plot. So we found its positive gain in both frequency band, lower band as well as higher band in 3 different sizes. So now we calculate its radiation pattern for 3 different frequency band, 1.8, 5.5 as well as 5.8. So we found EH band, so almost dipole omnidirectional type radiation pattern of our design antenna. Now coming to the bending effects. So that is very important and crucial things you should analyze in the variable condition, because as per we discussed earlier, human body has different shapes. So where you want to use your antenna, you want to use your antenna in hand, leg, which position. So different position has different bending. So whenever you will design, your antenna should be band, it also should be flexible, it should be band, and whenever it should band, it should covering the that bending situation also it should covering that particular frequency band. If it is not covering that particular frequency band, then it will be not useful for the designer. So we should so we are considering different bending radius, that is R equal to 30 mm, then R equal to 60 mm, R equal to 105 mm, and R equal to 205 mm. So we done the analysis of bending in different situation, and also we find out its S parameter. So R equal to 30, R equal to 60, R equal to 105, R equal to 205, and without bending. So here see how much variation we found. So we found for R equal to 30 means here bending is that angle is more, means see in B point B in figure. So here bending of the surface is more. If bending of the surface is more, the parameter of the antenna is shifted. The bands see earlier case without bending and that R equal to 30 mm. So there is the design issue. Whenever you will create bending, it's more due to electric field effect. Means upper layer and lower layer, field distribution effect will be there. Due to that distribution effect, the things will be cancel each other and will not get proper, whatever in earlier design means without bending condition, will not get the exact things in 30 mm or different bending situation. So before, which application you are going to design, which things, those are the challenges you will face. So you should consider the bending dimension. Now one thing coming in bending. Now another thing, it will come in human body. So there are two different things people we are using to calculate the human body model. One thing is human body cellular model, cell model. We consist a small cell that is skin, fat, muscle, bone. Because in our Indian subcontinent, in our lab also, we don't have sufficient RAM or sufficient memory to run the whole body at a time. So ANSYS is that type of model, as well as CST. There are some models is available: male, female, hand, so many things, torso, head. So as per your requirement, you can do using HFSS simulator as well as CST micro. But one thing kept in your mind before doing this type of simulation, the configuration of your device should be high. Otherwise, the simulation is not possible. Otherwise, another way you can do the simulation, that is also approximate the value will come same, that is another, that is skin, fat, muscle, bone. We are considering a small cell, and then we calculate the things. So the small cell consists skin, fat, muscle, bone, and we place the antenna above the human body small cell and calculate the things. Now, table 5.1. So whenever we are considering the small cell, the issue will come that at various frequency, the permittivity will be changes. So at 2.45 gigahertz, the permittivity we found that we take some other papers, that is permittivity for skin 37.95, fat 5.27, muscle 52.67, bone. So conductivity also we find out. So if you design for higher frequency, that is for 5.2 or 5.8, the things will be vary. Now the simulated S parameter with on-body condition. So with body, that G is means gap between the antenna as and with body. So the gap between antenna with body we consider 1 mm, 2 mm and 3 mm, and we find out that with body, because body is a lossy material, so you are not getting proper bandwidth. A blue color without body, but when body comes, the bandwidth become reduction. So the body is only, we'll see the permittivity is high for body condition. So the body is fully lossy material, so we will not get proper bandwidth. So this is one aspect. Earlier we considered bending. Now we are considering the body. Now if it is both combined, then the overall effect will be more. So we done it in measurement. So without body condition we did it, and we found that without body the things will be no issue. But when body we are placing, we place it in different body position, hand, leg, chest, and we have different position, and also we find out the things is measured S11 in different conditions. So like that we find out. So here you see the things are not coming properly. Whenever both things will come, means without body the antenna covers the lower and upper frequency band, but when with body it is not covering the lower band as well as upper band. Some case it is covering the lower band, some case it is not covering the upper band properly. So that is a design issue or design challenges in the wearable body condition. So now again we change the design. And also another important terms, whenever it will come to the wearable condition, the SAR or specific absorption rate. So specific absorption rate is measured at which energy absorbed of the human body when exposed to a radio frequency electromagnetic wave. Power absorbed per mass of tissue and as units of watts per kilogram. And it is obviously an important parameter, because in India now wearable very less government gives permission because that body or SAR exposure. Now we have done SAR analysis. So one paper we have done, another work also we did, but it is not published, communicated. That's why I am not sharing all those things. But I will show the SAR analysis how it is will come. So let's see. One value is given, that SAR analysis, that is 8 watt per kg. 8 watt per kg is given, but after that, whenever we use the meta layer or meta surface layer, in between the body as well as the antenna, we placed one layer. So that layer throw all the radiated incident wave in the body in the upper direction. So due to the throw the all wave in the upper direction, the SCR value is reduced. So that is one of the application you can use in future also, because there less number of work is reported successfully for SAR reduction, and that is also in future also so many application will be come in body area and network and consideration. So that is, there is a huge scope in SAR reduction consideration using meta surface. So meta surface means whenever it will come incidence, actually it is zero reflection, means whenever incident wave is incident that surface, so surface it will not propagate through the surface, it will reflect it from that surface, and due to this property you can use and reduce the SAR of the antenna. So there is a huge scope in bending analysis, reconfigurability, human body effect, and SAR reduction, because there are so many, till there is no paper is established like that, which done proper bending analysis with mathematical, as well as they have not done the radiation pattern and other things, proper analysis why radiation pattern is affected, how E-field pattern will be affected, and body will come, how other things will come. So till now no work is reported such like that. One or two may be reported, but there are so many scopes are there, so many bandwidth are covering in future, 5G and other things will come. So you can, there is a huge scope in antenna domain in wearable technology. Now another aspect of wearable MIMO. So our next speaker, or yes, tomorrow's speaker sir will discuss in detail in MIMO technology. So MIMO is now upcoming technology. So many things are works is going on. So it actually increases the channel gain, channel capacity, channel bandwidth, and data transmission. So earlier there are so many losses due to multipath fading. So it can be accomplished using MIMO technology. Now I will just go through the simple things because MIMO will be discussed elaborately tomorrow's session. So I will show one work. That work we have done using MIMO wearable. So here one antenna will see. So this also working as a wide frequency range. It's from 2 to up to 6 gigahertz. So S11, S12, S21 and S22. Here S11 and S22, those are reflection coefficient, and S12 and S21, those are coming to the transmitted coefficient from one antenna to the another antenna. And here we make separation gap D equal to some 13.5 meter. So here we design and wearable metamaterial unit cell. So the important thing is that is purely wearable metamaterial unit cell. We are designing it in the metamaterial concept, and it works in two particular frequency band. So in 2.4 gigahertz as well as 5.2 gigahertz, and it is work as a absorb the particular that frequency band whenever we are using these things in between the two antenna. So here we'll see the metamaterial unit cell we are using in between the two antenna. So it does not reflect the property of the metamaterial, but means periodic property we are not using, but it is like those unit cell has capability of absorb the, or it's remove that, it reduce the transmission between one antenna to the another port. So first we designed MIMO antenna 2, MIMO antenna 3. There are 3 different configuration. First configuration we use 2 unit cell in the upper layer top, that is mentioned in yellow color. Then we are using 3 metametrial units in a cell, and the third one is the combination of upper layer and lower layer. So what are the important things we found if we are using these things? We found that if we done its S11 and S12 analysis, whenever you will see the S12 analysis, S11 analysis, we are getting proper bandwidth in both frequency range using MIMO 2, 3, 4, but we are getting things better in S12, that is MIMO antenna 2, MIMO antenna 3 and MIMO antenna 4. We are seeing that MIMO antenna 4 condition here, particularly at 5.2, 5.8 and 2.4 gigahertz, this parameter is improved. S12 is improved because port isolation depends on the S12 parameter. If power is transmitted from port 1, if it is block, transmitted power is not received in 2, then there is some block is there. So that is improved by using port isolation is improved by using that metametrial structure. So see that whenever we will simulate current pattern at 2.4, 5.2 and 5.8 gigahertz, so that red portion is surface current whenever we plotted. So we found that in that particular 2.4, 5.2 and 5.8 gigahertz, so there is port isolation is increases and all the things is absorbed by that metametrial structure. So that's why it's become more rad. So that is the comparison graph. Whenever MIMO antenna 1, that is without metamaterial, and MIMO antenna 4, that is with metamaterial. So comparison graph, we show that S11, it's covering lower and upper both frequency band, but S12 whenever see, so there is the blue spike is there, that is improve the S12 parameter. So that is our main motto, to improve the isolation parameter, keeping the S11 parameter is constant. So ECC and DG, that is the MIMO parameters, envelope correlation coefficient and diversity gain, and we calculated and we found that things is good in both situation, lower and upper. So now coming to the fabrication, we also done this fabrication manually. So I also tell you how to fabricate all those things. So we done it. So fabrication, there is some small toleration error is there in fabrication. So we done its measurement. So measurement we get almost in that particular frequency band simulated result and measured result. Due to that small error, there is small mismatch is there, but it is covering almost that particular frequency bands. Also done gain measurement, and we also found that antenna covers the 2.4 as well as 5.2 gigahertz frequency band. Now coming to the comparison table, so our antenna covers the 2.4, 5.2, 5.8 gigahertz, and isolation enhancements is also 10 dB, 20 dB, as well as 10 dB in all frequency band, 2.49, 4.8 and 8.5 dBi gain also that particular 2.4, 5.2 and 5.8 gigahertz band. So here we are using the metamaterial as a MIMO antenna isolator to improve the isolation of the MIMO antenna. MIMO antenna, wearable MIMO antenna, we can say that. So now I will share the important things whenever we want to design some wearable antenna, what are things we should keep in mind. So first one is wearable substrate. Which substrate you want to choose? You can choose the gene substrate, its permittivity range 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. You can follow our 2-3 articles I'll share with after the slide. As well as you can follow one article from Professor Bhaskar Gupta, Jadavpur University. He measured all the things practically. You can take directly from his value from his paper, 1.6, 1.7 and whatever the permittivity, loss transit, all the things. And then you measured it. If its value is come to near it, then okay, you can say that your whatever you have chosen and whatever search suggested, those things are correct or valid. So first design a small antenna or whatever the rectangular microstrip patch antenna, fabricate it and check it, your wearable substrate and whatever dimension you have taken and whatever the things you designed and fabricated, simulation and measure is coming properly or not. Next, go to the next design, whatever your design. Because so many institute or so many people don't have that measurement facility of the substrate measurement. If you have, then go through direct. If you don't have, then go through this process. Next, after choosing the substrate, you can cut it in proper dimension, whatever your maximum dimension, 60-60 or 60-30. Then you know how to make DXF file printout. You make 1:1 ratio and take this printout. Now, next, you add copper layer above the substrate. So, add copper layer is available in Amazon. I will show you after that. So, that is the copper layer. That is copper layer used. So, that is copper tape actually. Second one. First one is the substrate. Then arrow we are using. That is a copper tape. So, you can. It is available in the market. So, you just paste the copper tape in the substrate. Okay. So, one thing you should keep that dimension of the copper tape, it is 50 or 60 mm, you should check it. Then only because if your antenna is more than that 50 mm, then how you will design, you just think it practically. Okay. So after that pasting all those things, this one, then taking the DXF substrate, paste the printout using Fevistick above the copper layer. So copper layer will first substrate, then we will paste the copper, then next we will paste that printout, whatever we have taken, that is printout, we will paste it using Fevistick, but don't take it much, only small some dots take it, otherwise it will be sticked with your end. So after taking this one, then cut the layer using blade, then your antenna will be come in this shape, whatever we have seen in earlier, it will look like this one. Okay, and remove the unusual part. Okay, so maybe first time you will face difficulty, but next time onwards you will not face any difficulty. So, but keeping 2-3 things in your mind, that dimension you should take more, then only it is possible. So those are the basic component we are using. One thing is missing, that is the DXF printout. You just take it normal DXF. Whenever we will do any fabrication, DXF is required. So make just DXF, take it, print out, paste it above the copper layer, and copper layer is the simulated tape like that. So, and just using blade, you just cut it. First time or second time you will face problem. After 2-3 times, then there will be no issue like that. So those are the publication we have done under the guidance of Dr. Ujjwal Chakrabarty, and as well as one or two my colleagues are there. So we have one research group, those are dedicatedly work in metasurface as well as wearable antenna, MIMO antenna also. So, and another one of my friend is working in instrumentation department. He helped me a lot according to measurement of that substrate measurement. He done those measurement also. I sincerely thanks to all of my, acknowledge all the people, those are helping me a lot. Again, tomorrow also, sir, my guide Ujjwal Chakrabarty sir will discuss about all the MIMO antenna, how only design aspect, what are the different techniques they are using in MIMO technology, what we can use. So different design aspect also we can. So those are the publication. Now I should say thanks, and that is the small things, but maybe it will be very important for you whenever you will design in wearable aspect. So it is very useful for you how to implement the things using small low cost substrate. You can design the things. It is very useful, and for antenna there is no cost within 20, 30 or 40, 50 rupees. Your antenna you can fabricate in your own also. And then for measurement also, in our college there is measurement facilities 13.6 gigahertz. So you can use that facility, you can mail me or you can contact with us. My mail ID also shared with you people earlier also, otherwise I will share again. You can mail us, we can do some measurement also. So is there any question you can ask me or chat?
Good afternoon, sir. Hello.
So first question is there any difference using FR4 substrate instead of other substrate? Yeah, FR4 substrate some advantage, disadvantage is FR4 substrate permittivity is very high, that is 4.4. If you use that permittivity of substrate, then your gain will become very less. Can we use leather as substrate? Yes, you can use leather as a substrate, but before using the leather substrate, you should know its permittivity, other properties. If you know the things, then only you can use. So we also in our sir also design one antenna, which one is actually Ashim sir and my guide Ujjal sir design one antenna. Sir is using some bottom, some plastic resin substrate, which published in recently in Transaction also. You can see those paper also, and you can get ideas some things. So you can use leather substrate, there is no issue, but you should know the permittivity and other things. Have you RCS measurement facility, sir? Yeah, we don't have RCS measurement facility. We also struggle regarding radiation pattern measurement also, because in our earlier college, NIT Silchar, they have facility all those, but here radiation pattern, RCS, other measurement facility is not there. So another question is there, different genes cotton of different, so the dielectric permittivity may also vary. Yeah, that's also I already mentioned earlier, different genes cotton, different compositions. So the things, if you have measurement facility, you can measure. If you don't have measurement facility, you consider it 1.6 or 1.7, then measure it, check it, your basic or this antenna is work perfectly or not, then you go through your next antenna. Which method you follow for dielectric measurement? Actually, all the things we measured using dielectric assessment kit. In our NIT Silchar, there is wonderful measurement, dielectric property, measurement for solid as well as liquid. So many things are there. So my friend done those things. He write also 1-2 article based on how measured and other things. So you can follow. I will, if you want, I will share those things, those files. Yeah, another question is metamaterial contribute is minimizing an SR effect? Yes, we are trying to implement, not actually metamaterial, we are trying to implement meta surface to reduce the SAR effect. In our recent work also, we are trying now in meta surface to reduce the SAR effect. Because nowadays SAR effect is very important things. So we are doing in this aspect, metamaterial or meta surface to reduce the things. Yeah, you can do work in metamaterial or meta surface using metamaterial. How to measure MEG and CCL of MIMO antenna practically, sir? So tomorrow there is an expert from MIMO domain. Sir will explain. You can ask questions, sir. Sir will explain on the things. So I will not take this question now. Tomorrow, sir will take. So for bending in CST, if you put directly design, you may put your antenna in Boxel model where you don't do bending, and you may perfectly put your antenna in Boxel model and check your result for its best presentation. Okay, for CST I don't have any so much idea because I have done all those things in high frequency structured simulator and HFSS. Next question, can you use meta surface in between patch and ground? Yeah, you can use meta surface in patch and ground, but we don't know what will be the effect will come. So you should check the result. And then if it is useful, then you can go. But what is the purpose you are using in between patch and ground, you should define all those things. So actually Rajiv Kumar and Mr. Hardik, yeah, all these things you can share, but some things whenever you will go for higher version of any CST or HFSS, you should purchase those things. You can't use it freely. So those are the things. So today is the 4th day, we'll share so many things. So I think it will be helpful for you people. And tomorrow onwards, you can, tomorrow is the last session, that is the MIMO antenna, that is the most recent trends and techniques. So sir will discuss different MIMO technology or different MIMO antenna. In last 2-3 years, our research group is dedicatedly work in MIMO technology. So near about 10 to 15 published article also we published in different IEEE, IIT and so many things. So sir will share all those things. I hope you will enjoy the tomorrow session. So that is the one session only, and after that we go for valedictory and other session. So I hope everyone is enjoy the session, and thank you for around 62 people are till now. So that shows that you people are dedicatedly want to do. I hope you maybe enjoy my session also and overall other session also. So thank you. So thank you everyone. So from this, I want to conclude my session. Okay. Tomorrow we'll meet again and conclude our workshop.